I woke up to an empty house and knew my world was about to shatter. Hey family drama lovers, welcome to this intriguing story. Smash that like button and subscribe to this channel and ensure you watch this video till the end so you see how I made my stepdad regret his words. Trust me, you're gonna want to hear how this ends. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what time it is. Let's see how far our drama family reaches. But let me back up. Let me tell you how I became invisible in my own mother's house. My name's Tyler Matthews, I'm 17 and I live in Phoenix, where the heat isn't the only thing that'll burn you. You know those custody arrangements where kids bounce between parents like ping pong balls? Yeah, that's been my life since I could walk. 1 month with mom, Rebecca, and her new family. 1 month with dad, Jonathan. Back and forth, like some twisted game of hot potato where I'm the potato nobody really wants to hold on to. But here's the thing that'll make your skin crawl. For the past 3 years, my stepdad, Marcus, and his 2 daughters have been giving me the silent treatment. And I mean complete, stone-cold, Arctic freeze silence. Picture this. I walk into the living room where they're all laughing at some movie. The second I step through the doorway, dead quiet. Marcus turns his head away like I'm some disease he might catch. His daughters, Sophia, 14, and Emma, 11, they don't even blink in my direction. It's like I'm a ghost haunting my own mother's house. Marcus Wellington. 44 years old, insurance broker, widower whose wife died in a car crash 3 years ago. Married my mom Rebecca 18 months ago, and from day one he's treated me like I don't exist. But here's what's really gonna mess with your head. I have no idea what I did wrong. None. Zero. Zilch. I've tried everything, you know? I've been polite, helpful, and stayed out of their way. I've asked my mom a million times what his problem is with me. Her answer? Oh honey, Marcus is just adjusting. Give him time. 3 years, Mom. 3 years. How much time does a grown man need to adjust to a teenager who's literally done nothing but try to be nice? Every dinner at that house is torture. I sit at one end of the table while they chat and laugh at the other end like I'm not even there. Marcus will ask Sophia about school, Emma about her friends, and Mom about her day at the real estate office. Me, I might as well be a piece of furniture. And you want to know the really twisted part? My mom acts like this is totally normal. Tyler, you need to understand, she told me last month. I made so many sacrifices for you growing up. I turned down marriage proposals, job opportunities, everything. The least you can do is be patient with Marcus. Patient? Patient? Lady, your husband won't even acknowledge that I'm breathing the same air as him, and you want me to be patient? But I kept my mouth shut because, what choice did I have? I love my mom even though she's clearly lost her mind. And I didn't want to tell my dad about any of this because, honestly, Jonathan would lose his absolute mind and probably drag her to court faster than you could say, custody battle. So I suffered in silence. Just like Marcus wanted. The house in Paradise Valley is beautiful, by the way. All modern lines and desert landscaping, the kind of place that screams, we have money and good taste. But you know what it doesn't scream? Welcome home, Tyler. Every time I walked through that front door for my custody month, I'd have to mentally prepare myself for 4 weeks of being treated like a criminal. 4 weeks of only talking to my mom while everyone else pretended I was invisible. And the worst part? I started believing maybe I really had done something wrong. Maybe there was some terrible thing I'd said or done that was so bad, I'd blocked it out of my memory. That's what psychological abuse does to you. It makes you question your own reality. You want to know how this nightmare started? Because I remember the exact moment the thunder struck. It was Marcus's 3rd visit to our house, back when he and Mom were still dating. I was 14 just trying to be a good kid, you know? He'd been asking me about school, my hobbies, and normal getting to know you stuff. I thought we were actually connecting. Then one day, like someone flipped a switch, he stopped talking to me completely. Not gradually. Not slowly pulling back. One day we're chatting about baseball, the next day I'm dead to him. And here's the thing that really messes with your head. My parents have made incredible sacrifices to keep this custody arrangement working. Dad turned down a promotion in Denver. Mom rejected a transfer to San Diego. They've both stayed in Phoenix for 17 years just so I wouldn't have to choose between them or deal with long-distance custody. Mom loves to remind me of this. A lot. Do you know how many men I turned away because I had a son? She'd say when I complained about Marcus. Do you know how many opportunities one gave up? And now that I've finally found someone who makes me happy, you can't just be grateful and make this work. Grateful? For being treated like garbage in my own mother's house? But here's what really gets me. Marcus has his own kids who lost their mother. Sophia and Emma were 8 and 5 when their mom died in that car accident. You'd think a guy who knows what loss feels like would have some compassion for a kid just trying to fit into a blended family. Instead, he trained his daughters to ignore me too. I've watched it happen. When they first moved in, Emma would sometimes smile at me or say hi. But Marcus would give her this look and she'd immediately shut down. Now both girls treat me exactly like their father does, like I'm not even there. Living in that house during my custody months became like being in solitary confinement, except there were people all around you. They'd have family game nights without inviting me. They'd plan weekend trips and forget to mention them until they were walking out the door. The only person who acknowledged my existence was Mom, and even then she'd get all defensive if I brought up how her husband was treating me. Marcus has been through a lot, Tyler. Losing his wife, raising 2 girls alone. Can't you just cut him some slack? Cut him slack? Lady, I'm not asking him to adopt me or take me fishing. I'm asking him to treat me like a human being. But every time I pushed back, Mom would get emotional and start talking about her sacrifices again. How she could have had a different life if she hadn't kept me. How she deserved to be happy after giving up so much. And you know what? That manipulation worked. I felt guilty for wanting basic human decency in my own mother's house. So I learned to cope. I'd spend most of my time in my room when I was at Mom's place. I'd count down the days until I could go back to Dad's, where I was actually wanted and loved and treated like I mattered. But here's the thing about being ignored and dismissed for 3 years. It changes you. You start to believe maybe you really are the problem. Maybe you really are as worthless as their treatment makes you feel. I stopped trying to connect with Marcus or his daughters. What was the point? I became quieter, more withdrawn. I started dreading my custody months instead of looking forward to spending time with Mom. And the whole time, Rebecca acted like this was just a phase that would work itself out. 3 years of psychological warfare and she called it a phase. I woke up that Tuesday morning to dead silence, and something in my gut told me everything was about to go to hell. The house felt wrong, you know? Too quiet, too still. Like when you walk into a place and immediately know nobody's home, except I had no idea why everyone would be gone. I stumbled downstairs in my boxers and t-shirt, expecting to find Marcus making his usual protein shake while completely ignoring my existence. Instead, I found nothing. Empty kitchen, empty living room, empty everything. Their cars were gone. All of them. My heart started pounding because, honestly, what 17-year-old wants to wake up and realize their family just vanished without a word? I grabbed my phone and called Mom, hands actually shaking while it rang. "Oh, Tyler, good morning, honey," she answered, and I could hear wind in the background. Road noise. "Mom, where is everyone? The house is empty." "Oh, right, I should have mentioned. We decided to take a little camping trip up to Sedona for the week. The kids really needed some family bonding time." Family bonding time. Let that sink in for a second. Family bonding time that apparently didn't include her actual son. You left me here alone? Without even telling me? Well, you're on summer break and you don't really like camping anyway. I thought you'd enjoy having the house to yourself for a few days. Just keep an eye on things for us, okay? Keep an eye on things. Like I'm the family watchdog or something. Mom, you can't just leave me here without warning. What if something happens? What if? Tyler, you're being dramatic. It's just a few days. I have to go, we're about to lose signal. And she hung up on me. Hung up. Me. I tried calling back 3 times. Straight to voicemail every single time. So there I was, standing in that beautiful Paradise Valley house, completely alone, realizing that my own mother had just abandoned me without so much as a heads up. And you want to know what the worst part was? She expected me to be grateful for it. Like being ditched by your family is some kind of gift. I spent that whole day pacing around the house, getting more and more pissed off. This wasn't about being left alone. Hell, most 17-year-olds would love an empty house for a week. This was about being treated like I didn't matter enough to be included in family decisions. This was about being an afterthought in my own mother's life. By evening, I'd made my decision. If they wanted to pretend I didn't exist, fine. I'd make it easy for them. I packed my stuff, locked up the house, and left the key under the ceramic gnome by the front door where Mom always hides it. Then I drove my beat-up Honda to Dad's place in Scottsdale. Jonathan answered the door in his reading glasses, completely surprised to see me. "Tyler? You're not supposed to be here for another week. Everything okay?" And that's when I broke down and told him everything. Have you ever had one of those moments where you realize you've been carrying a weight you didn't even know was crushing you? That's what happened when I finally told my dad the truth. I sat in his living room, you know, the one where I actually felt welcome, and just let it all pour out. 3 years of being ignored, dismissed, tanned, re-aided like a ghost in my own mother's house. 3 years of my mom making excuses for her husband's psychological abuse. And yeah, I said it. Abuse. Because what else do you call systematically ignoring a child for 3 years? Dad just sat there listening, his jaw getting tighter and tighter with every word I said. When I got to the part about them leaving me behind without even a conversation, his hands clenched into fists. She left you alone for a week without discussing it first? Dad, she hung up on me when I tried to talk about it. Multiple times. That's when I started crying, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. 17-year-old guys aren't supposed to cry about their mommies, but screw that. I was hurt, and I was angry, and I was tired of pretending everything was fine. Tyler, Dad said, and his voice was scary calm. I'm going to take care of this. All of it. You're safe here, and you're staying here until we figure this out. For 5 days I heard nothing from Mom. Not a text, not a call, nothing. The woman who left her son alone for a week couldn't even be bothered to check if I was alive. Then my phone rang with her number, and I actually felt hopeful for a second. Maybe she was calling to apologize. Maybe she finally realized how messed up this whole situation was. Instead, she was screaming at me at the top of her lungs. Tyler, what the hell is wrong with you? Mom, what? You left the house unprotected. We've been robbed. Everything's gone. My stomach dropped to my feet. What do you mean robbed? I mean someone broke in and stole our TV, Mom's jewelry, Marcus's electronics, everything. Because you abandoned your responsibility. I tried to call you. You wouldn't answer. You could have texted. You could have left a note. But instead, you just ran off like a selfish brat. And that's when I heard Marcus's voice in the background, the first time he'd spoken about me in 3 years. I told you that kid would bring ruin to this family. I told you from the beginning. Ruin to this family. The family that wouldn't even acknowledge I existed. Mom, I'm not responsible for this. You left me without warning, ignored my calls, and expected me to just deal with it. What did you think was gonna happen? I thought my son would act like a man and protect his family's home. Your family, Mom. Not mine. Marcus has made it very clear I'm not part of this family. The fight went on for another 20 minutes. Her screaming about responsibility and trust, me trying to explain that you can't abandon someone and then blame them for the consequences. Finally, she dropped the bomb that made everything crystal clear. Your father's going to pay for this, Tyler. If he's defending your behavior, he can pay for what it cost us. Unless you want to do the right thing and apologize to Marcus and the girls for what you've done. Apologize. To the man who'd been psychologically abusing me for 3 years. I'm not apologizing for anything, Mom. Then this is on you and your father. She hung up. Again. But here's the thing that was eating at me. What did Marcus mean when he said I'd bring ruin to the family? How can someone who barely interacts with you be so convinced you're going to destroy everything? What was I missing? 2 weeks later, I got an email that changed everything. It was from Marcus, and I almost deleted it without reading it. The subject line just said, "We need to talk." And honestly, after 3 years of him treating me like I was invisible, I wasn't exactly jumping at the chance for a heart-to-heart. But something made me open it. Tyler, I know you have every right to hate me, and I know this is going to sound crazy coming from me, but I think we've both been played. There are things about the last 3 years that you need to know, things your mother told me that I'm now realizing might not be true. Can we meet somewhere neutral? I think you deserve answers. I read that email about 50 times trying to figure out if this was some kind of trap. Why would Marcus suddenly want to talk to me? What could my mom have possibly told him that would make him treat me like garbage for 3 years? Dad was suspicious too when I showed him the email. This could be him trying to manipulate you, Tyler. Get you to apologize or take the blame for the robbery. But there was something in the way Marcus wrote that email. Something that felt desperate? Like he was just as confused about this whole situation as I was. So I agreed to meet him at the Desert Botanical Garden. Public place, lots of people around, easy to leave if things went south. I got there first and sat on a bench near the desert wildflower trail, watching families walk by and wondering what it would feel like to be part of one that actually functioned. Marcus showed up 15 minutes later, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His usually perfect insurance broker appearance was rumpled, and he kept running his hands through his hair like he was nervous. "Tyler," he said, sitting down on the opposite end of the bench. "Thank you for coming." "Yeah, well, I figured after 3 years of you pretending I don't exist, this better be good." He winced at that, which was weird because Marcus never showed any emotion when it came to me. That's what I need to talk to you about. The way I've been treating you. I thought I had good reasons, but I'm starting to think those reasons were built on lies. My heart started pounding. What kind of lies? Marcus looked out at the desert landscape and I could see him struggling with something big. "Tyler, what I'm about to tell you is going to sound insane, but I need you to hear me out. When your mother and I first started getting serious about 3 months into our relationship, I asked if I could move my sick mother in with us. My mom was dying and she needed family around her. Okay. Your mother said no. But she didn't just say no, she told me it was because of you. She said you had serious behavioral problems, that you terrorized her previous boyfriends because you were hoping to get your parents back together. The world tilted sideways. She said what? She told me you'd called my mother a useless burden, and threatened to make her life hell if she moved in with us. She said you called my daughters spoiled brats and said they were dead mom's mistakes who would ruin our family. I felt like I was gonna throw up. Marcus, I would never say anything like that. About anyone, but especially not about your mom or your kids. I know that now, he said quietly. But at the time I believed her completely. And she kept feeding me stories about things you supposedly did at school, fights you got in, and disrespectful things you said about our relationship. I thought I was protecting my daughters from someone dangerous. So you decided to just ignore me completely? I didn't want to risk setting you off. Your mother made you sound volatile, like any interaction might trigger some kind of episode. 3 years. 3 years of feeling like a monster, wondering what I'd done wrong, questioning my own reality. All because my mother lied. Marcus, I said, and my voice was shaking. I've never been in a fight at school. I've never disrespected your relationship with my mom. I've been trying to figure out for 3 years what I did to make you hate me. He put his head in his hands. Tyler, I am so sorry. I should have talked to you directly instead of just believing, but your mother was so convincing, and she knew things about you that seemed to confirm what she was saying. What things? Private things. About your therapy sessions after your parents' divorce, about the struggles you had adjusting. Things only a mother would know. So when she told me you were acting out because of our relationship, it seemed believable. That's when it hit me. She'd used my childhood trauma, my private struggles, to build a case against me with her new husband. My own mother had weaponized my pain to get what she wanted. There's more, Marcus said. Your mother and I separated last week. She finally admitted she made it all up because she didn't want the responsibility of caring for my sick mother. She's been lying to both of us for 3 years. The desert was spinning around me. Everything I thought I knew about my family, about myself, about why I was being treated like garbage, it was all built on lies. So your mom, I whispered. Did she ever? She died 6 months ago, Marcus said. In a nursing home, alone, because I thought my stepson had threatened her. And that's when I realized the truth that was going to destroy everything. Marcus's mother died alone because of my mother's lies. Let that sink in for a minute. A dying woman spent her final months in a nursing home instead of with her family because Rebecca convinced her son that I was some kind of monster who would torture his sick mother. Tyler, Marcus said, and his voice was breaking. I can't even begin to tell you how sorry I am. My mom kept asking why she couldn't come live with us, and I told her it was because of you. She died thinking her son chose his stepson's comfort over her care. I couldn't breathe. The desert heat was nothing compared to the fire burning in my chest. She made me believe you were dangerous, he continued. She had stories, Tyler. Detailed stories about things you supposedly said and did. She told me you got suspended from school for fighting. I never checked because I trusted her completely. I've never been suspended, I whispered. I know that now. When she finally confessed last week, I called your school. Perfect attendance, honor roll, never even a detention. She fabricated everything. The woman who gave birth to me had spent 3 years systematically destroying my relationship with my stepfamily. Not just passively allowing abuse, actively orchestrating it. Why? I asked. Why would she do this to me? Marcus shook his head. Because she's selfish, Tyler. And she's a coward. She didn't want to deal with caring for a sick elderly woman, but she also didn't want to look bad by saying no directly. So she made you the villain in a story she completely made up. But I'm her son. That's what makes this so sick. She used her own child as a shield to hide behind. Every time I questioned her stories about you, she'd get emotional and talk about how hard it was to raise a troubled kid alone. My hands were shaking. 3 years of wondering what was wrong with me. 3 years of feeling like a criminal in my own mother's house. 3 years of believing I was somehow broken or bad. All because Rebecca needed a scapegoat. There's something else, Marcus said quietly. She's been trying to get me to convince you to cut contact with your father. She wanted full custody so she could control the narrative completely. What? She said your dad was poisoning you against our family. That if I could just get you to see how much better off you'd be with us full time, you'd stop acting out. The manipulation ran deeper than I'd even imagined. She wasn't just destroying my relationship with Marcus, she was trying to isolate me from the one parent who actually loved me unconditionally. "Marcus, I need you to know something," I said. "I never, ever said those things about your mom or your daughters. I was actually excited about having sisters when you guys got married. I thought maybe I'd finally have a real family." He broke down then. This 44-year-old man just started sobbing on a bench in the middle of the desert botanical garden. "I stole 3 years from you, Tyler. 3 years where you should have felt safe and loved in your mother's house. Instead, I made you feel like an outsider, like you didn't belong. My own daughters learned to treat you like garbage because I taught them to. Where are they now? Sophia and Emma? Staying with my sister while Rebecca and I figure out the divorce. They're confused and hurt because they don't understand why Daddy suddenly wants them to be nice to Tyler after years of ignoring him." The ripple effects of Rebecca's lies had damaged everyone. Marcus's relationship with his daughters, my relationship with potential step-siblings, and even his dying mother's final months. "I'm filing for divorce," he said. "And I'm going to make sure everyone knows what she did. Your dad deserves to know the truth about what's been happening in that house." Part of me felt vindicated. Finally, someone believed me. Finally, the truth was coming out. But mostly, I just felt empty. Because at the end of the day, my own mother had chosen her comfort over my well-being. She'd thrown me under the bus to avoid an awkward conversation about not wanting to care for a sick woman. And now everything was about to explode. When Dad found out the truth, I thought he was going to have a stroke. We were sitting in his kitchen when I told him everything Marcus had revealed. About Mom's lies, about the fake stories, about how she'd used my childhood therapy sessions to build a case against me with her husband. Jonathan just sat there for the longest time, not saying a word. His coffee got cold while he processed what I was telling him. "She told him you threatened a dying woman," he finally said, and his voice was deadly quiet. "Dad, she made up everything. The school fights, the disrespect, all of it. I'm calling my lawyer." "Dad." "No, Tyler. This isn't just about custody anymore. This is about psychological abuse. She put you in an environment where you were systematically ignored and emotionally tortured for 3 years. Based on lies she made up." That's when my phone started blowing up with calls from Rebecca. I'd been ignoring her since the robbery fight, but now she was calling every 5 minutes. Finally I answered. "Tyler, baby, we need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding? Mom, you lied about me for 3 years." "Who told you that? Was it Marcus?" "Tyler, he's trying to turn you against me because he's angry about the divorce. He showed me the emails, Mom. Your confession. You admitted you made it all up." Silence. Then, "Tyler, you don't understand. I was trying to protect everyone. Marcus has anger issues, and I was afraid if I told him directly that I didn't want his mother living with us. So you made me the bad guy instead? You told him I threatened his dying mother? I never meant for it to go on so long. I thought maybe after a few months. 3 years, Emma. 3 years of feeling like a monster in my own family." She started crying then, the manipulative tears she always used when she got backed into a corner. "Tyler, please. You have to understand I love you. I've always loved you. I wasn't ready for that kind of responsibility. Taking care of a sick person, it's hard, and I already had so much on my plate with work and trying to blend our families. By destroying me? I never meant to hurt you. I thought Marcus would I thought he'd be cool with you and everything would work out. By ignoring me completely? By training his kids to treat me like I was invisible? I didn't know it would get that extreme. But that was the thing about Rebecca. She always had an excuse. Always had a reason why her choices weren't really her fault. Mom, I can't do this anymore. I can't pretend like this is something we can just move past. Tyler, don't say that. We're family. We can work through this. Family doesn't sacrifice their kids to avoid uncomfortable conversations. I hung up on her. For the first time in my life, I hung up on my mother. Within an hour, Dad's lawyer was at the house with emergency custody papers. Within 2 days, we were in family court with evidence of emotional abuse and Rebecca's own written confession to Marcus about the lies. The judge took one look at the case and granted Dad temporary full custody pending a full hearing. Rebecca's world was falling apart, and for the first time in 3 years, it wasn't my fault. The custody hearing was brutal. Rebecca showed up with her lawyer, looking like the grieving mother whose son was being stolen from her. But Dad's attorney came prepared with everything, Marcus's testimony, the confession emails, even statements from Sophia and Emma about how they'd been instructed to ignore me. Your Honor, Rebecca's lawyer argued, My client made some poor decisions during a stressful time in her life, but she loves her son deeply and has been his primary caregiver for 17 years. Primary caregiver? Dad's attorney shot back. She placed this child in an abusive environment for 3 years and actively participated in psychological warfare against him. Her own written confession admits to fabricating stories about Tyler threatening violence against an elderly woman and other family members. The judge read through the evidence, including Marcus's detailed statement about how Rebecca had manipulated him into believing I was dangerous. Mrs. Wellington, the judge said using Rebecca's married name, these allegations are extremely serious. You've admitted to creating false narratives about your son that resulted in systematic emotional abuse. Your Honor, I was trying to navigate a complex blended family situation. By lying about your child? By allowing him to be psychologically tormented in his own home. Rebecca started crying, but even her tears looked fake now. Everything about her felt calculated, manipulative. I love my son, she sobbed. I just want our family back together. The family you destroyed with lies? The judge asked. Ms. Wellington, based on the evidence presented, I'm granting full physical custody to the father, with supervised visitation rights for the mother pending successful completion of family therapy and anger management. Supervised visitation. My own mother was now legally considered a risk to my well-being. As we left the courthouse, Rebecca tried to grab my arm. Tyler, please. Don't let them turn you against me. I'm still your mother. I looked at her, really looked at her, and realized I was looking at a stranger. The woman who'd raised me, who I'd loved unconditionally for 17 years, was someone I didn't recognize anymore. You stopped being my mother the day you decided to sacrifice me for your own convenience, I said. And I walked away. Meanwhile, Marcus's divorce was finalized within weeks. Apparently, when you can prove your spouse systematically lied to you about your stepchild to manipulate your family situation, the courts don't look favorably on the liar. Rebecca lost half her assets, had to pay Marcus's legal fees, and was left alone in that big Paradise Valley house where she'd orchestrated 3 years of psychological abuse. The irony? She finally got what she'd always wanted, a house without me in it. 6 months later, I was a completely different person. Living full-time with Dad meant I could actually breathe for the first time in years. No more walking on eggshells, no more wondering what I'd done wrong, no more feeling like an unwanted guest in my own family. I started therapy, real therapy, not the kind where your mom uses your sessions as ammunition against you. Dr. Martinez helped me understand that what I'd experienced wasn't just family drama, it was systematic psychological abuse. Tyler, she said during one of our sessions, you spent 3 years being gaslit by the person who was supposed to protect you most. It's going to take time to trust your own reality again. She was right. I'd catch myself apologizing for things that weren't my fault, second-guessing my own memories, wondering if maybe I really had done something to deserve that treatment. But slowly I started to heal. The crazy part? Marcus and I actually became friends. Real friends, not just people forced to tolerate each other. He'd drive over to Dad's house sometimes just to hang out, and we'd talk about everything, sports, school, his daughters, my future plans. Tyler, he said one afternoon while we were shooting hoops in Dad's driveway, I know I can never make up for those 3 years, but I want you to know that getting to actually know you has been one of the best parts of this whole mess. Sophia and Emma were slowly warming up to me too. It was awkward at first. Imagine trying to build a relationship with kids who've been trained to ignore your existence. But kids are resilient. Once they understood that their dad had been wrong about me, they were curious about who I really was. Tyler, Emma asked during one of their visits to Dad's house, did you really never call us evil goblins? Emma, I've never called anyone evil goblins in my entire life. Good, she said. Because that would have been really mean. The simple innocence of that interaction broke my heart. These kids had been taught to hate me based on complete lies, and now we were starting over from scratch. As for Rebecca, she tried everything to get me to forgive her. Letters, gifts, showing up at my school and having relatives call me. But I wasn't ready. Maybe I'd never be ready. Some betrayals are too deep to heal from, especially when they come from the person who's supposed to love you unconditionally. I was thriving in ways I hadn't even realized I'd been struggling. My grades improved, I made new friends, I started playing guitar again, things I'd given up because I was so depressed living in that toxic environment. For the first time in 3 years, I felt like myself again. 1 year later, I'm sitting in my dorm room at Arizona State University, writing this story and still trying to process everything that happened. I got accepted with a partial scholarship. Turns out when you're not spending all your energy surviving psychological abuse, you can actually focus on school. Who knew? I'm majoring in psychology now. Funny how trauma can point you toward your life's purpose. I want to help other kids who are stuck in toxic family situations. Kids who think they're crazy because the adults in their lives are gaslighting them. Marcus and I text regularly. His daughters, I guess I can call them my stepsisters now, even though legally we're nothing to each other, send me funny TikToks and ask for help with homework. It's the family relationship I'd always wanted but thought I didn't deserve. Dad's proud of me in a way that feels different now. Before, I could see him worrying about me, wondering why I seemed so sad and withdrawn during my custody months with Mom. Now he gets to see me actually flourishing, and it's like watching a parent's relief in real time. Tyler, he told me when I left for college, I'm sorry I didn't figure out what was happening sooner. I should have protected you better. Dad, you couldn't have known. Rebecca is really good at manipulation. Still, my job was to keep you safe and I failed. Your job was to love me and support me. And you never failed at that. As for Rebecca, she still lives in that Paradise Valley house, alone. I heard through family gossip that she's been trying to date again, but apparently word gets around in a city like Phoenix about what she did. Nobody wants to get involved with a woman who'd sacrifice her own child to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. She sent me a letter when I graduated high school. Long, rambling thing about how sorry she was and how she'd been in therapy and how she understood now that what she did was wrong. I never wrote back. Some people think that makes me cruel or unforgiving. But here's what I learned. Forgiveness isn't something you owe someone just because they're related to you. It's something you give when you're ready, if you're ever ready. And I may never be ready to forgive the woman who made me question my own worth for 3 years. But you know what? I'm okay with that. Because I've learned something more important than forgiveness. I've learned that I deserved better. I deserved a mother who would protect me instead of using me as a shield. I deserved to feel safe and loved in my own home. And now I do. The crazy thing is, I'm actually grateful for what happened. Not because it was okay, it wasn't, but because surviving it showed me how strong I really am. It showed me what real love looks like by showing me what it doesn't look like. Most importantly, it taught me that family isn't just about blood. It's about the people who choose to love and support you, even when it's hard. Marcus chose to believe the truth about me when it would have been easier to keep believing the lies. Dad chose to fight for me when I couldn't fight for myself anymore. Even Sophia and Emma chose to give me a chance when they could have held on to their resentment forever. That's real family. That's what love actually looks like. And Rebecca? She chose herself, every single time. She chose her comfort over my well-being, her convenience over my safety, her image over my reality. So while I'm sad about losing the mother I thought I had, I'm not sad about losing the mother she actually was. Because that woman was never really on my side to begin with. I'm 19 now, living my own life, building my own future. And for the first time in years, that future looks bright. Now I want to hear from you. Put yourself in my shoes for a minute. Imagine you're 17 years old, being ignored and psychologically abused in your own mother's house, and you find out it's all based on lies she told to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. What would you do? Would you try to forgive her? Cut contact completely? Something in between? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm genuinely curious how you'd handle this situation. And if you enjoyed this story, do me a favor. Share it with someone you think needs to watch it. Maybe someone dealing with toxic family dynamics, or someone who needs to understand that family manipulation is real and damaging. Hit that like button to help this story reach other people who might need to know they're not alone in situations like this. Most importantly, subscribe to this channel and stick around for more daily family drama stories. Trust me, if you thought this one was intense, you haven't seen anything yet. Ring that notification bell so you never miss when we drop new content. Until next time, remember, you deserve better than people who make you question your own reality. Even if those people are family. Stay safe out there.